What up? Welcome to Olympia Pop Rocks, your favorite podcast. This episode, we interview Elizabeth Lord, local storyteller extraordinaire. She will be performing this Wednesday, May 6th at Vomity, Comedy at the Voyeur. We talked to her about her craft and her art and her upcoming projects. But first, Guire and I talk about Star Wars and comics.
Oh my god, do you know about the trailer I just saw?
Oh, you mean with the Age of Ultron?
Why would I care about a movie about Actually, a movie about Voltron would be pretty cool.
It's the Age of Ultron, the Avengers one.
Oh, the new Avengers? I haven't seen the trailer yet. Is it good?
I've made a very good point about actually not watching. Actually, I don't know why I'm saying I made a good point of not watching anything from it because I've not had it exposed to me in any way whatsoever. But
if it came on, would you avert your eyes?
Like in what context am I walking down the street?
No, let's say you.
What context?
Okay, let's say the next movie we saw, if the Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I think that's
okay. If Age of Ultron trailer came on, would you watch it?
Yeah, I would. If I was walking in the theater and it started, I would walk out. But if I was sitting down, I would not stand up.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's better not seeing trailers.
Oh yeah.
Unless, of course, it's a Star Wars trailer, in which case I want to. I want to see every iteration.
Right. I gotta say that when you first heard about the first trailers for Star Wars coming out, you said, I'm not gonna watch a trailer. I'm not gonna read any information. I don't want to go in there completely blank. I was like, come on. Yeah. You're like, no. I think the next time I saw you, you started like reading the comic books. You had seen the trailer, and you knew the plots for the movie, and you knew all this information that
I got onto Wikipedia and I read all the rumored plot points.
Wikipedia, that's
I will know everything about that movie before I actually see that movie. I'm so excited about it. So Jamil and I watched Star Wars Celebration a few days ago on Wednesday the 16th.
Yeah, this press junket for the release of the trailer.
It was so crappy.
Oh my god.
My favorite part was where the honest professional, who is like the MC, I think asked J.J. Abrams what his favorite piece of merchandise was. Pretty bad.
Yeah, it was definitely a very professional event, and that's the kind of thing when actors say it's like, oh, I got in this job to make movies and make art, and now I'm just doing all this press kit. That's the kind of thing they're talking about, and they all handled it very well. They came out there and they did their due diligence. Do you remember from the Red Letter critiques of the prequels? They showed the interview with Natalie Portman, and she was talking about the struggles the character was going through, and then he was like, that took better acting than she showed in the whole movie. And it was like, just going there doing this talking about your character, and it's like that's part of the job of acting, is pretending like you give a shit or you have deep thoughts about your characters. And I just saw that a lot with the people. Well, this is probably more exciting than the prequels, but
no, this is way more exciting than the prequels.
I mean, if you're the actor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's if I was one of the actors for the prequels, that's very exciting to be. I'm sure it was exciting to be part of Star Wars, but it's a different thing to be part of these, where you're acting with the original cast and that kind of thing. I'm sure that's crazy exciting. And the fact that it's just it's a respectable happening, which the only time that was true for the prequels was for the first one, before everybody knew how shitty they were.
No, I think that...
By the way, Jamil was mentioning the Red Letter critiques of Star Wars.
The prequels.
The prequels. If you haven't seen those, I highly recommend checking them out on YouTube. They are creepy at times, very true, but they are a savage and detailed takedown of those movies and why they suck. And
they gave me a sense of closure and the language to critique of what was wrong with that movie, even though it's easy to say everything was wrong with them, but just from this is how movies are made, this is how stories are told. These films don't do any of those.
Movies should have a protagonist. But anyway, you can find it YouTube, Red Letter critique.
Yeah,
Star Wars. That'd work. But the whole Star Wars celebration ended with the most recent teaser trailer for Star Wars, which I must say was fantastic. I don't know if it was worth the 58 minutes that
of nonsense
that came beforehand, but it was great.
Yeah, the trailers got us very excited. I'm very excited. There were some really cool shots, and it was like, oh, that's so cool. Though I gotta say, for the nonsense that we had to watch before. It was cool to see BB-8, the robot that's actually not CG, which when I first saw it in the original
So
teaser
this is a
trailer.
robot. For those of you who haven't seen any of the new Star
Who
Wars
has
trailers,
not
go
seen
check
this?
it out.
What is this
But it's
nonsense?
the
People
robot.
haven't seen it.
It's the robot that has kind of like an R2D2 type head, but then the body is just a ball. It's a sphere, and somehow the head remains on top of the sphere as the sphere can like roll around in any direction, and the head swivels on on a vertical axis, so it can like spin, side to side, while the ball is moving in any direction. It's just crazy to see it.
I love BB-8.
I thought it was CGI too, but
Yeah.
it's an actual real thing.
I love that they made it and it's real and it's really cool, but I can't imagine any practical use for having this ball with this thing on top of it versus like another droid that can actually walk. Like they figured out droids can walk. Why would they need to make this ball? Like what instance would that actually be practically useful? It's like, oh, we can't get this other small droid that crawls around. We need to have something that rolls. I don't see that.
I remember in the original, like the episodes, like, the original trilogy, I think maybe in Empire or Jedi, there's these small little droids on the Death Star that roll around that just look like little mobile toasters. You remember
yeah,
those? And they
yeah,
just roll around.
Those are the sweepers. What do you call those?
Oh, yeah. They're the Roombas.
Yeah, they're the Roombas. They're just keeping it tight. It's a very tidy Death Star.
No, so anyway, it wasn't getting back. I'm not talking about Ultron. I was talking about...
Oh, you saw the Batman movie, the trailer for Batman and Superman?
Oh, Batman versus Superman? No, I mean, I have seen that trailer too, and I'm excited for that. I've always kind of been anti-Superman just because, to me, he just has this one weakness.
He's got more than 1 week.
No, kryptonite, that's it.
No,
And
he loves people.
He loves...
People use that against him. His love is a weakness. I've always thought so. Love is a weakness.
His secrecy is kind of a weakness.
Yeah, that's true. Because he loves people.
He loves one person.
He loves all of humanity, each and every one of us.
Well, he's always seemed he seemed like a goody two shoes to me, and I'm not that interested in his character, but seeing him as this powerful, trying to do right, but as such kind of creating this fascist state, I like that. And particularly because Bruce Wayne's never seemed like this altruistic character. He's just like the silly playboy who has too much like money and quite a bit of power. It would be cool if the movie was to be set up like Superman's the bad guy, but Bruce Wayne's kind of viewed as the bad guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Who has to fight the supposed good guy. I just hope they play with that well. And I liked the look of the film quite a bit.
I don't know. I have doubts, Squire.
You have doubts?
I have doubts, and not because Ben Affleck is playing Batman. I mean, and that's the thing about who plays Batman. It's like you can see his chin. That's all you can see of the character. It doesn't matter who fucking plays him,
right?
Because I mean, Bruce Wayne can be Bruce Wayne.
Do you think he'll do this?
No, they'll have some new thing where he's
squeaky voiced.
He's like, "Hey, I'm Batman. Stop thieving!" It was just like, "Oh, so annoying." Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who plays Batman. I have no doubts that Ben Affleck will do the best that they can because he's just a bit player, really. Mm-hmm. But I guess it just reminded me of the CG coloring of a world similar to Sin City. Did you see the?
Yeah,
which was excellent and it was very cutting edge and it made it seem like a comic, which I appreciated. I don't want them to do that every time there's a comic book movie. Yeah, it just seemed like... And, like, when they showed the trailer, I didn't get any sense of what the movie would actually be like. They gave, like, what the cool parts, like, and what the fight scenes are maybe going to look like, and, like, when they sweep over the city. But when one character is talking to another one and the plot develops, is it still going to look like that? How is it going to actually feel? They didn't give anything to suggest what that would actually be. They're just creating this general mood, and I appreciate that they're not spoiling the movie the way the trailers almost always do, but it didn't fill me with excitement.
I'm just hoping for the best. I've been...
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I mean, I don't want them to fail, but hoping for the best is not expecting the best.
One thing that does make me excited about this Batman versus Superman is just that growing up, Batman was my jam. That's the comic that I collected. My parents were generous enough to support my comic book collecting habit just because they were happy I was reading anything at all. I hated reading mostly, but I loved reading comic books. And
me too.
So it was the one that I followed. I followed all three.
So
there's Detective Comics, Batman, and Shadow of the Bat. Those were the three available storylines at the time, and I followed them all.
So you were a DC reader then?
I was a DC reader because there was nobody to expose me to Marvel comics in the right way. And
What do you mean, like the right way?
I definitely read a few Marvel comics just here and there, but there was nothing to ground me in the storyline or to provide a larger context for the characters. So the thing that I don't like about Superman is that he has these superpowers and there seems to be very, very little outside of like some alien threat that could come in to actually rival his power. And X-Men, I know I read X-Men a few times and some other Marvel titles where the characters just seem to have these superpowers and I didn't understand their vulnerabilities and I didn't understand a larger context of the storyline, so I couldn't ground myself in it. Whereas Batman, somebody had set up his origin story and he's a human being who's this detective, but
Right.
also rich and has these crazy toys. And so he's inherently vulnerable. He can be shot. Somebody could walk up and shoot Batman in the face. He'd be dead. Whereas, all these other types of superheroes I just didn't understand. So you were Marvel?
Yeah, I used to read all the Marvel comic books, and it's funny. The only reason why I read X-Men and Spider-Man was simply because when I was a little kid, that's what my brothers collected, and like they wouldn't let me read their comic books, and so like there was like this sense
They
of
wouldn't
taboo.
share.
They would not share, which I completely understand now because I was like this grubby little dirty little brother with like dirty little hands who I wanted to paw their comic books. I have vivid memories of the first time I read a comic book, which was the introduction of Dazzler, the Disco X-Men. Like I remember it so cool, and I thought that Dazzler was like I continue to think Dazzler was so cool for the whole time I read comic books, just because the first comic book I read was when the X-Men met Dazzler, and I don't think that she actually was a member of the X-Men, but she became a spin-off character.
Right.
So, but my brothers didn't read Batman or Superman or any DCs, and then when I started talking comic books with friends at school, like no one read them either that I know of. No one actually talked about them. And like the only characters that I know really well are Superman and Batman, and I hear that there's other comic books at DC,
Yeah, whatever.
other
For me, it's
superheroes.
just, it's
oh wait,
those two.
Aquaman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, no.
Like I didn't know anyone who read those. Like
Let me ask you a question. You're a big Neil Gaiman fan.
Oh, yeah.
Were comic books the way you got into
oh
Neil
yeah,
Gaiman's writing?
that's definitely it. Like then I got into Vertigo, which technically is DC, and yeah, that was just over. That just like ended superheroes for me because that was like I was just the right age. I was like 16, 17 years old, and there was this sophisticated, edgy, smart writing that incorporates superheroes, but it's very meta. Looks at the society that I wanted to be a part of, like just city living. And it's just better. Like, I mean, Neil Gaiman's just a fantastic writer. Fantastic writer.
The Sandman series.
Yeah, the Sandman series I read. I actually read everything that he did. I put out
Sorry, moving on. But actually, the trailer that I
Oh, yeah, the trailer.
originally wanted to talk about was there's a bootleg out that happened during Star Wars Celebration. That was a teaser trailer for Rogue One. Which is going to be the Star Wars movie that has nothing to do with episode
main
7,
story. Yeah, right,
8,
right.
and 9. But evidently there's going to be a Star Wars kind of like, they're not spin-offs, but they're just to flesh out the general story. And so Rogue One is rumored to be about how the plans for the Death Star were obtained by the rebels.
Right.
Yeah.
I confess I actually watched it last night.
Oh
and
my
I was-
goodness.
And I was very excited. That would have been worth, like, two trailers would have been worth actually being in the audience and, like, having to deal with all the nonsense that they were having people do. Did you notice that the Death Star was the moon?
No.
So it's like going over this lush landscape, and then you see the X-Wing go by, and then it goes up, spoons up to the sky, and then the Death Star is the moon, but it's like very subtle. It's very similar to the trailer of the second teaser where they have this Star Destroyer on the planet. It's like this very subtle in the background, but it's like, oh my god, it looks so big and cool, and it's like kind of faded in the background. I was like, oh my god. So
Yeah, the
exciting.
teaser trailer is very, very simple. It's a single shot. I didn't even notice that was the
Death Star.
The Death Star, and that makes sense now because the single shot is just kind of this forest landscape, and then there's a big hunk of sky, and then there's a voiceover. And so when I saw it, which I only saw it once, and it's a bootleg, so it's all grainy.
Right.
But I remember thinking, that could just be the stock footage. There's nothing about that is distinctly in the Star Wars universe or anything, but that is cool to know that. And there's a voiceover from one of the first three
Alec
movies.
Guinness, yeah,
Yeah,
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then there's kind of like a dog fighting dialogue that's going on that sounds very chaotic like some sort of X-Wing, TIE fighter dogfight going on. That's not going well. It doesn't sound like it's...
Yeah. It's like they're going against Darth Vader in a pod race.
Yes.
That's
yes.
exactly what it sounds like.
I'm very excited about it. I imagine that movie could easily have Darth Vader in it.
Yeah, that'd be so awesome if they actually had Darth Vader in it, because, you know, the original cast is going to come back. If they can have Darth Vader come back, why the fuck not?
It's true. I mean,
Yeah.
Darth Vader is still alive. The original guy who did it, I don't know his name.
Even if he wasn't, they can get the guy who's playing the Wookiee to come back and play Darth Vader too. Yeah, I don't care as long as it has the same voice.
He's like this ginormous Vader. Yeah, they just James Earl Jones is still alive, so
Yeah, no.
that's fine. We're probably gonna get fact checked and people are like he's dead.
I have to say they're doing a very good job of making me very excited about the Star Wars, and they did. What would it take for me not to be excited about a new Star Wars movie?
This is what all it would take for you not to be excited about a new Star Wars movie.
George Lucas's involvement.
George Lucas directs it. Yep.
That's
Episode
true.
9 is going to be directed and written by George Lucas. And right there, I would cease to
that's
be at
true.
all
Like,
excited about it.
George Lucas and Michael Bay collaborating, I'd be like, no.
This episode of Olympia Pop Rocks is brought to you by the Steamboat String Band Jamboree. The Steamboat String Band Jamboree is a showcase of 17 of the best folk, bluegrass, and string band acts of the Northwest. Do not miss this event. It's all happening Friday, May 8th and Saturday, May 9th. 2 days of music, free camping, and all ages fun at Olympia's historic Prosperity Grange Hall on the west side. There will be local beer. There will be local food. There will be a gigantic bonfire. Bring your family and friends for this all-ages, all-inclusive celebration. The Jamboree is $15 per person for Friday, May 8th, and $20 for Saturday, May 9th. But those are pre-order prices, so purchase your tickets today at steamboatstringjam.com. For more information on bands and events, check out steamboatstringjam.com. Olympia Pop Rocks would like to thank Steamboat String Band Jamboree for the support of this episode. And now, back to our interview.
Welcome to Olympia Pop Rocks. Our guest today is Elizabeth Lord. Thank you for coming in.
It's so good to be here.
Welcome.
Who are you? What do you do? Justify your appearance here.
Well, I am Elizabeth, and I am a storyteller.
Wait, hold the phone. Storyteller, that's incredible.
Well, we're all storytellers. It's
Okay.
kind of how we communicate. It's just I put them on stage and try to make them amusing or clever if I'm good at it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you also do a variety of, things that are involved with storytelling. You do an annual vaudeville show.
I do.
Nice.
I produce the local Lord Franzanian Royal Olympian Spectacular Vaudeville Show.
Which is how we met.
That's
I had
right.
the honor of being a member of the...
I'll probably tap your shoulder again
I'd be happy
come
to
fall.
join again. You bet. Yeah.
Tell us a story about your first experience with Olympia in general. The first time you came here, or how
How'd you hear
heard
about it?
or
Like your impression of
yeah.
Olympia before you came here? If you had one.
Okay.
Or are you Olympian? Heck. I
No,
actually
I'm
know the
from Las
answer.
Vegas, Nevada.
I knew that from one of your shows.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, I came here to go to the Evergreen State College. So initially, my first impression of Olympia was just that campus. And I came to visit when I was 18 years old, and I came from the desert. And so I was struck by the green. There's so many trees, and everything's lush, and there was rain. And I loved rain because when I was growing up in the desert where it's, 100, 105 degrees in the summertime, you didn't go out and play. You stayed in and played.
Right.
Because it was just too damn hot.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when it would rain in the desert growing up, that was a play day. It was like, all right, let's go outside. And the town would flood because they're not prepared for water because everything's made out of concrete and asphalt. The water would come up over the sidewalks with concrete sidewalks, and we would make little boats and things and float them down and play in the rain. And so when I moved here and it was raining, I thought every day's a play day.
Oh, nice. How do you even hear about the college?
I bought one of those guide to colleges index books, those big tomes that list every school in the country. And I narrowed my search down. I wanted it to be a school with a small population without a Greek system, without
That's a good
competitive
criteria.
sports. And there was that bonus that Evergreen didn't have lettered grades that
Right,
they
right,
issued students.
Right.
And it had to be in the Northwest. So it fit all that criteria.
What was your experience with Evergreen while you were here?
Great. I loved it. I went all 4 years of my college experience there. My first year there, I went to a commencement ceremony.
Right.
Right.
I noticed that they had a guest speaker, and they had a graduate student representative speaker, and they had an undergraduate speaker. And I decided then that I would be school speaker at my graduation. And I was.
Nice. Awesome. Sweet.
And my parents confused that with valedictorian. And they thought I'd done
You just
really
let them
well.
think that, and you're like, yes, valedictorian.
Yes, I'm the best student
Well,
here.
Straight A's.
Did you study storytelling?
I
at
did.
Evergreen?
I used to say I had a degree in storytelling. Very difficult for people to comprehend and accept and or even acknowledge.
You just changed it to communications. Just like, oh, same thing. You know?
I amended it. I'd say theater arts and storytelling.
I see.
Or theater art, comparative religion studies, mythology, and storytelling.
And from there, you actually started performing in town, like you developed.
Yeah, my second year in school, I joined the Olympia Storytelling Guild.
Oh.
Is that guild still around?
It is.
Really?
But now they're the South Sound Storytelling Guild.
Oh, they're expanding pretty soon. It'll be Pacific Northwest.
Right.
Story.
Well, there's also the Mount Tahoma Storytelling Guild and the Seattle Storytellers Guild. And there's guilds all over the country that people that get together that are interested in the art of storytelling.
And then when you get together, is it like a storytelling jamboree or is it like workshops on that? It's a swap.
Story
Nice.
swaps. And the primary focus was folktales. People weren't telling stories from their life necessarily. It was breathing new air into folktales that had heretofore been published in books. So people often would learn the stories from the books and then start telling them again. Because the stories were initially oral stories that were passed around, and then some collector came in, maybe a Grimm brother, maybe
Right.
someone else,
Yeah.
and then wrote them down. The idea of this revivalist storytelling was to breathe new life back into these stories and get them out.
And then that's why the guilds formed, was to help facilitate that process.
I suppose so. That would be one of the reasons, yeah.
Well, I mean, and also people really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 of your shows. I saw Smoking is Cool. I loved all the stories involved, and then I really loved at the end participating, and everybody got a little baggie of tobacco, and then you rolled it. There's one where part of it takes place in Reno, part of it in Las Vegas.
Vegas childhood.
When you're putting together those sorts of shows, like, how do you go about that process?
Well, let's say you're with some friends, you're hanging out, and something has happened to you recently that perhaps initially was embarrassing or surprising
Okay.
or some heightened emotional event. And you relate it to your friends in a casual situation. And instead of them saying, oh, yeah, right, they say, really? And then what happened? And so you tell them more. And after that experience, I would go away thinking, oh, that's a good story. Take a note of that. And I would write it down. The title, I assign it a title. And maybe often on a 3x5 card. And on the back, I'd write down some basic details. And there it is. And when I'd have an accumulation of these cards, I'd look at them and see if I could see an outline theme emerge, which often isn't the case.
Right.
So instead, I'd pick a title for the show and then take the stories that I have that I'm willing to share on stage and manufacture the through line or the red thread that runs through them that goes along with the theme that the title addresses. I'm in the process of writing a new show right now.
Oh, awesome.
It's challenging.
How long does it take?
A long time. Well, it takes a lot of space. I'm very busy with other things right now, and I need space to just come up with those ideas, to read over notes and think,
It seems it
this'll
requires
work.
you to be social too, because you need to have that reaction from your peer group to see what actually like hints you at what the good stories actually are. Like, do you actually find that some things that you think are funny and like very amusing that people are just like, oh, and they don't
Yeah.
like follow up with it?
Yeah, but that's, the artist, you just have to push forward and decide this is what I want to do and put it out there. And,
Right.
I'm less an entertainer in that regard. That's where the art comes in. But storytelling's more entertaining than,
It's very entertaining. I was going to say it's so entertaining. Watching you do what you
It's
do
different.
is so entertaining.
yeah. Like right now, the working title for my new show is Strap Your Hands Across These Engines. And, or Strap Your Hands Across My Engines.
Meow.
And so many people look at me like, okay, don't know what that means, don't know why that's interesting, but I know why it's interesting. So.
That's probably part of the art as well, is making a story with a suggestive title that's vague, so that when you actually get to it, it's like a punchline that you heard before you heard the joke. So when the punchline comes, it's like more satisfying.
Yes, and that's good storytelling. You don't want to give it away right at the get-go. You don't come in and say, "I'm pregnant," and if you don't get the response you want,
Congratulations.
no, thank you. Let's say someone says that, "I'm pregnant," and everyone says, "Oh, okay," and they're disappointed because they don't understand. They thought they couldn't get pregnant. They've been trying for 10 years with their husband to get pregnant.
Oh, yes.
But they didn't set up the story right. They should have given the context first.
Right.
If you don't have the context to understand the gravity of the situation, then the punchline won't be as satisfying.
And I mean, now you have an accumulation. How many shows do you have put together? I mean, quite a few.
Not too many. Vegas childhood, getting there, cheap rent.
Apparently, my girlfriend had interviewed to live at that house, and so she told me about it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I live in a shared house with 5 bedrooms that we've filled for years, and so we've interviewed people over time, and
How's the rent? Ha 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 ha.
yeah, the rent's quite cheap. It's also a show about being able to pursue the arts because I don't have I don't have to earn a lot of money in order to pay my rent and so on and so forth. Last 2 years ago, I did the swimsuit area.
I think that was the third show I saw.
Oh, Please Write. That's the other one.
Oh wait, no. So
about
then I
letter
also saw
writing.
that because then I still have the postcard. I never
Oh,
wrote.
you never send
I
it?
never wrote.
You should have mailed it.
I liked having it as a reminder. And then look, it didn't even remind me of the title of the show. I'm a failure.
So maybe you should explain what actually you're talking about, because I don't know what the postcard means.
Well, at most of my shows, I have some sort of audience interaction, audience participation at the end. Like with Smoking is Cool, everyone got a little kit so they could roll a cigarette and smoke it, not inside the theater. Or they could give it away, or they could throw it on the ground, because smoking is a disgusting habit.
Yes.
Or cool.
Hopefully I didn't get anyone hooked on nicotine after that. And at the end of Please Write, everyone received a pre-stamped postcard that had the show poster image on one side, and on the back it said, "I just saw this show and thought I'd drop you a note and a place for you to write a message." Everyone received a pen. And I said, just think of someone you haven't communicated with in a while and write their name on the top line of the address. And then once you're home, find their address and mail it. And they had no excuse not to. It was pre-stamped. I did get a lot of those postcards mailed to me.
Oh. You're like, my secret agenda all along.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So then, after you get the show done, do you end up taking those outside of the Olympia community, or is that...
I try to.
Nice.
I don't always succeed, though. I had really hoped the swimsuit area, which was a very personal show. I don't know if either of you saw that. Had to do with women's issues in the swimsuit area. You know, the swimsuit area? It's the part of your body that needs to be covered in order for you not to get arrested in public. And I had invited people from Planned Parenthood to come and see the show. And I had, because the show was a love story, a love song to Planned Parenthood as an institution. And I thought they might pick it up and have me come and work out, but that didn't work out. I don't know. I need an agent. I need someone to help me get my work out there.
Well, one of the first things I thought when I saw your act was that if you had been on it, you would be a very successful YouTuber, because there's a lot of storytelling and and audience participation in the YouTube community. 10 years ago, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
there was a boon of people just talking to their audience and talking about their life in
Oh,
amusing
yeah.
ways. Yeah. Have you ever actually looked into?
I have thought about it. The problem is, when I began studying storytelling and the art of storytelling, it had some rules to it. Rule number 1, you don't stand up. You sit down when you tell a story. 2, you don't read. It's something that comes from your mind, from your memory. 3, you don't memorize word for word any story. You learn the story,
Right.
the skeleton, and then you tell it. 4, you make eye contact with your audience throughout storytelling, which is what makes it different from theater.
Yeah.
Theater arts, there's that imaginary fourth wall that's in front of the players before the audience. And the actors pretend you're not there, that you're just getting to see their life as though you're a voyeur. And the fifth big rule about storytelling is it's live. It's live and it's in person, or it doesn't exist. It's oral, it's live. So the idea of making a video of a storytelling, to me, negated the storytelling. It wouldn't be the same thing.
Right.
I held the art so high, I guess, that I thought, oh, people would say, did you record your show? I'd say, well, no. If you want to see it, come see it. I'm not going to give you a DVD of my show. It's not going to be the same thing. I wasn't there breathing in front of you, looking you in the eye. But I'm coming around.
Well,
Maybe
I
it
agree
might be
that it
nice.
would be different, but there is like
Yeah.
a sculpted and planned story that's told that would be expresses like similar truth, but hits the audience in different ways. And like you have to be aware that that is the case. Like absolutely, like if you just set a microphone and we recorded you telling a story here, it would not be the same as being in this room. And like there are ways that would actually be able to tell a story better than if you just tell it to someone's face.
Oh, I agree. And I am less rigid following those rules. If you've seen my shows, I don't sit.
Yeah, you don't say it. I wasn't going to bring it up.
And
but
I do have a theatrical background, and I am moving, and yeah.
But you are very much engaging the audience. When I watch your performances, I think the first time that I saw you perform, I was nervous.
You were
know what-
nervous.
Yeah, because you're up and moving and looking at people, and that makes me, in a performance setting, you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen next. There is that level of engagement where you're like, oh, I'm actually involved, and I liked that excitement.
There was discomfort, but you liked it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
just because, like you said, usually the fourth wall is up. Everybody's sitting here quiet. Nothing's going to happen.
Very safe.
We're very safe here.
Yeah.
But it's different when there's a performer who's making eye contact with everybody in the audience. At some point, they're looking directly at you and they're moving around and very animated. You're an animated storyteller. But I think you nailed it with videoing it, is just that it would become a different thing. So I don't know if it takes out of the realm of what the storytelling art is, but it would, in order to be effective, I think you'd have to really maximize like the video medium. So then like that would become something else.
And the audience interaction like is not through eye contact, but it does happen in like a very different way, but also in a way that like the kids today actually are very comfortable interacting with each other via replies to comments on like Tumblr or on Reddit. And like there is less of a wall between like the big figures who are telling the story. Eventually they become part of the story and they become a character and they have their words turned into different stories. And it's actually like very inspirational and amazing to see and be part of.
Cool.
The world's an amazing place.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Word on the street is, so you're going to be performing at Vomity?
Yeah.
You're going to be storytelling, or are you going to...
Well, I just,
what's the
I'm kind of
deal?
excited. I've talked a lot with my friend who puts on Vomity. He's been in my vaudeville show in the
Sam
past.
Miller?
Yes.
He mentioned that we actually interviewed
how we
him,
met.
and he told us that he would balance chairs on his chin. Yeah.
And all manner of things,
Yeah.
quite large things. Then he got into comedy, and he called me up one day and he said, can we hang out? I want to talk to you about storytelling. I want to talk to you about comedy and storytelling. Because he found, maybe he said this, he found that he had jokes, but people really just wanted to hear his stories about the crazy things that he got involved in or in his past. And he's got some good ones.
Oh, he has some
Yeah.
doozies.
Yeah, he does. And so we talked about that, and I talked about doing comedy, and I thought, I couldn't do that. It's like this these short little, like jokes, or comedy is so difficult. So I thought if I ever did it, I'd just tell a story. But now I feel like I might be cheating if I just tell a story. I should perhaps challenge myself to try some.
Comedy is just like music, that there's lots of different ways you can do it. And like there are a few performers in town who have like two-part setups. So it's like this and then this. And then there's like the one-line joke that Emo Phillips and I forgot the other famous guy who does one joke. But then there's people like Louis C.K. who have like the long setup and it's a long story. And sometimes there's a punchline or just like amusing anecdotes, but it is like just storytelling with the basis is always going to be like something funny. But he also goes into philosophy and like sad things that he reflects on.
Right.
But I mean, comedy is like just like music that is really open-ended on how it can be done.
Have you been prepping at all by like exploring other comedians, or do you have a favorite comedian?
No. Oh, I like Margaret Cho. I used to tell people I was the imaginary love child of Margaret Cho and Spalding Gray.
Nice, yeah.
I like Louis C.K. I've seen him a couple times.
Or David Sedaris is a great example of a comedy
yeah.
writer who's very storytelling based. Even though he breaks the storytelling rule, but he often will read his stories straight from the book.
Yeah.
But I mean, they really flesh out the story a lot more because his intonation, especially when he does impersonations of his father, I love that so much.
Yeah.
I can actually hear him doing that. But,
Yeah, when Margaret does her mom, it's pretty good.
Another thing about with David Sedaris' style is so much of what's funny is his turns of phrase. To me, I really see a lot of craft work in the individual sentences that he writes. And so then that ends up being really funny. There's so many different ways to
Yeah,
do
I'm
it.
jealous of David Sedaris
Oh, yeah.
to the point where I won't read his stuff. I have, but I don't make it a habit. You know, I don't want to be corrupted by the Sedaris business.
Do you ever follow like The Moth or other
Oh
stories?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like those shows. I'm so glad those
Podcasts?
exist.
Yeah.
The Moth, and mostly on the radio I hear them. What is it? Snap Judgment.
Snap Judgment's so good. Risk. Have you heard
This
Risk?
American Life.
Yeah.
My parents are finally, oh, okay, you were a storyteller. I heard this great story on the radio. I said, yes. That's what I'm doing when I do these shows.
Have they come to see you perform?
Oh, no. Primarily because there's material I don't want them to hear.
Oh.
Like your impersonation of them.
Sure. Or the fact that they live a couple states away.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about badminton.
Badminton,
Yeah.
the greatest lawn game ever.
Yeah, what's the deal with badminton?
It is the best way to get people to play a game because they think it's super easy. But when they get on the court, so competitive.
When you play badminton, it's in it to win it.
Oh, yes.
You're not volleying back and forth and then
There's no light lobbing.
No.
No, there's smashes and dinks. It's not really called a dink, it's called a drop shot. But I call it a dink when the shuttlecock just grazes over the net and drops to the other side. Every year I have a badminton tournament. I probably mentioned this in a show if you know about yeah. And I've been the winner many years, but not the last two.
Guire told me of a badminton game that's the whole point is to not let the ball hit the ground at all, but just like so you can have a conversation. And the point is,
shuttlecock,
yeah, and just keep it going as long as possible.
Oh, yeah.
I
Do
like doing that.
I would do dance move badminton. Before you strike it, you have to do a dance move of some type
Nice.
and not let it touch the ground. So you do hit it up pretty high to give people a chance to bust a move.
Reminds me of cartoon tag. It's like freeze tag.
Oh, yeah?
But you had to say like a cartoon character before they tagged you, and then it wouldn't matter.
Nice.
Maybe that's something that I just played as a kid once, but for me it's like, yes, that's a thing. Cartoon tag.
I played that.
Oh yeah.
I've
nice.
not played that.
Nice.
I remember tunnel tag, freeze tag.
Someone told me to ask about bingo. Like you put on a bingo game.
Oh,
or put on a
yeah.
bingo game.
That's lovely. Last year, the South Sound Seniors Organization decided they wanted to create a bingo night that was not old lady bingo. They wanted it to be lively. They went to a bingo event in West Seattle where a bingo game was hosted by a drag queen. And the lighting's good, and they had karaoke going simultaneously, and there were cash prizes, and alcohol was served, and the drag queen host was, interacting with the audience and sassy and
A good
they-
show.
It was
yeah.
fun.
a good show as well as a bingo game. And so they thought they'd try to recreate something here and asked me to be the drag queen. No, the host. I did do it in drag the first time. But yeah, so I've been doing that every couple months.
Where's it hosted?
It's hosted at the Olympia Community Center, which is where the senior center is housed. 222 Columbia Street.
Nice.
Yeah.
For Vomity at the Voyeur, 9 p.m. sharp. Sam runs a tight ship.
But I'm last.
Yeah, you're the feature. So I guess you can be. Well, I mean, there's actually like that was one of the surprises about moving to Olympia for me is that there are very good comedians here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there's some great acts. And
Oh.
Sam is very funny.
Makes me
Yeah.
anxious. I work until 9, so I told him Yes, but I won't be there at 9.
You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually changed my work schedule so that way I can go every Wednesday. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's a good show.
Cool. And I'll be back out at Evergreen. I'm going to teach students storytelling, which is cool.
Awesome.
That's not open to the
The
public.
student has become the master.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So Olympia, get out there and see Elizabeth Lord because you'll love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
OMG, guys, thank you so much for listening to Olympia Pop Rocks. Thank you so much for Elizabeth Lord for sitting in with us. Again, she'll be performing this Wednesday at Vomity Comedy Special at the Voyeur, May 6th, this Wednesday. She'll also be performing May 25th at the Northwest Folk Life Festival, doing storytelling there at the Seattle Center. That's going to be a great show all around. Everything we've mentioned here will surely be mentioned at our website, www.olympiapoprocks.com. And good night, gentle listener. Thank you so much for checking in with us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.